35 years. We are in the business of brand, and the 4 brands that you see on the screen are our 4 million brands. The journey in 1988 started with Officer's Choice, which continues to be our flagship brand. It was an interesting time way back in 1988 because there were very large recognizable brands like Bagpipe, Director Specials and many other. And for Officer's Choice to have come a long way in the last 35 years and maintain its market leadership is true testimony to the quality of work that has been done on the brand. I think the liquid inside the bottle, and I'll cover it up as we move forward. So way back in 1988, the journey started with a single brand. Well, in today's world, it was like a startup, right? Because you had established players like Shaw Wallace and Mohan Meakin and McDowell. So if you were to sort of bring it down to the current context, ABD way back in 1988 was a startup, and today what it is a leading player and the 3rd largest player in the country. The premiumization journey started back in 2011 with Officer's Choice Blue. The major breakthrough then in 2018, the launch of Sterling Reserve, and of course then in November of 22 with Iconic. And why this is important is extremely notable. If you see within the whiskey segment, there have hardly been any launches, right? If you look at the competitor set, the leading brands have been there for the last 25 years. For ABD, both Sterling Reserve and Iconic are 5 years young. So 2018 is when Sterling Reserve was launched, and 22 is when Iconic was launched. Sterling Reserve already does near 5 million cases. Iconic is the fastest growing brand in the world. It did its million cases in the first 13 months and went on to do over 2 million cases last financial year and continues to stay buoyant. It's a testimony to the brand, it's testimony to the liquid, it's testimony to the whiskey that we make. So that really gets us to be the 3rd largest player within. If you look at the brands they have produced to global scale, the fact that we are the largest exporter of IMFL out of India, and not just to GCC alone, now we are going to export across many other parts of the world, including a bit into North America, a bit into Singapore. It's a testament to the fact that everything that has been produced in terms of delivered quality, right, not just the liquid, but the packaging, but everything that goes along with it is to global standards. Important and a focused area. We are living in a global world, so our current portfolio, and as we are building the new portfolio, export is going to get a lot of attention. 7,100 crores of gross revenue and a gross margin base of about 37%. Company with a diversified portfolio, there is strong brand recognition, not just for 5 years, but has gone on to make 5 million cases, and Iconic being the fastest growing whiskey. Again, it's about the brand recognition. Any entity, any business entity in this alcobev space, to understand the nuances of what does it really take to operate in such markets, right? It starts not just with knowing the regulation, it also starts about what's the price point, how cost cuts have been made, and many other little things that go into it. So, I mean, in short, it's not about running a business in India. It's about running 30 different P&Ls, right? So the amount of rigor that is required to run 30 different P&Ls is what we've got to look at. Prepare ourselves as an organization to ensure that the post-IPO on the compliances, on risk management, on governance, we have best-in-class practices. So we have reconstituted our board. We have 14-member board, 7 independent directors. They have come both from India and non-India, and they bring in very diverse and rich experiences to help us. Our manufacturing, like I said, we have 1 distillery, which is in the state of Telangana. We produce 60 million liters of alcohol. That's at 100% capacity. We have 32 bottling units. Important thing to note in our bottling unit is that we run a bottling unit to about 70% capacity because there is seasonality in the business, and also the fact that you need some headroom for any tailwinds. So the way we do our capacity planning on a 3-year rolling basis to make sure that we have enough capacity there either for a tailwind or for the seasonality. Our R&D center is in Aurangabad, really a very, very important part of what we do. The R&D center produces beautiful blends like that of Iconic, that of Sterling Reserve, and many new brands that we plan to launch in the future. It's a team of very, very committed blenders, people who understand the nuances of what goes into making a whiskey. I mean, it's the art of blending. So it's a bit of science, but a lot of art, and it's got to do with the imagination of the blender in terms of what to offer to the customer, right? 10%. But when you start slicing the industry and break it up into what we normally use as premiumization versus the regular rate of industry, I think one fact is quite evident, that the rate of the premiumization is about 1.5 times the rate of the growth of the industry. So for those who are focused on the entry level, which is mass premium, which is sort of the first point of a consumer to connect with the brand, which is where we have officer's choice, all the way up to premium luxury product. They are growing at an extremely faster rate versus the entire segment, and I think reasons are all known to us. We are adding about 30 million users of every year in terms of legal due to age. There is rapid urbanization. There's access to media. There's access to social landscape. There is a changing social cultural environment, acceptability, and I think it's part of consume better theme that is quite some time to make sure that we build the practices that are best in class. There's a lot of focus on process automation. There's a lot of focus on digitizing. For example, our board practice is already digitized, and therefore the role of technology in all aspects of business, be it back end, front end, and not just in terms of building brand, will continue to be a driving factor. The brands have been winning accolades over years, so idea is not to walk you through what we've won, but idea is to maybe try and impress you that we've won many of them over a very long period of time. So consistency again is very important. Choice has been and will continue to be a very important part of our growth strategy and how it's going to drive a better financial KPI. For Officer's Choice, we will continue to stay focused in markets that offer better gross margin, gives us a better return on capital, and we have successfully migrated from a glass platform to using PET, and we've only gained share. I think there's a